Hi guys, welcome to our first tutorial, and today I will teach you how to use Vanus. First, to be able to use our playground, we're going to go at play.linkall.com and we're going to sign in with our GitHub account. Now let's press Launch Terminal to start the Vanus playground. While the playground is starting up, let me tell you more about Vanus. Vanus has the ability to separate storage and computing. It is using native standard cloud event specification. It also has built-in connectors and connector tools for an easy way to build an event-driven application. It has data filtering and transformation to be able to send you the data that you need and when you need it. And so today in our tutorial, we will learn how to install Vanus, install VSCTL, send and receive events. So to get started, we're going to run the first command here in the quick start to install Vanus. Here we have the command kubectl, which is Kubernetes command line. Now that we've started the process of installing Vanus, we have to make sure that all of the elements are running. We can do that with the command watch bar n2 kubectl get po bar n Vanus. You can just copy and paste. Here we can see that all of the components are running, and I want to take the time to explain to you more about each component that are running. The controller is responsible for storing metadata. It has 3 nodes, one being the leader and the 2 others being followers for high availability. The gateway basically is the event receiver, the IP address where we send events, or the way other things can communicate with Vanus. Vanus store 0, 1, and 2. These are segments for storing and computing the event. Vanus will create a new store if the volume of incoming data is high, and low if it is lower it if it's low, making a part of Vanus serverless. At the moment, this feature is set manually by the users, but in the future, it will be completely automatic. Vanus timer. The timers implements the delay and schedule event feature from Vanus. Finally, the trigger. The trigger is responsible for fetching the event from an event bus. When we create a subscription, event bus being the space we can send events to. The trigger also completes the event filtering and transformation. Let's stop the watcher by pressing Ctrl Z. Now we need to install VSCTL, Vanus Control Commands. To install VSCTL, we're going to use the curl command that you can see right here, the first command, to first download VSCTL. Once it's finished downloading, we can give it the right permission with chmod by copying the command. And finally, we need to move VSCTL to our user local bin so we can access it later on. And once we're done, we can make sure that it was installed correctly by checking the version. And if you see something like this, that means you've installed VSCTL correctly. Now we need to set the endpoint to be able to receive event into Vanus. VSCTL needs to communicate with Vanus. To communicate to Vanus, we are going to need to set the endpoint for Vanus. First of all, we can find the right URL and port by using the command minikube service list Vanus. And here we can see that the right port is 192.168.49.2 and the port is 30001. Once we've done that, we need to export the URL as an environment variable so we can use it. So in this case, we can copy the export Vanus gateway 192.168.49.2 30001. In the case that you would use Vanus in another server, you would have to change the URL Now that we exported the environment variable, we can continue by checking if VSCTL can communicate with Vanus with the following command. If you're able to see this message, this means that VSCTL has been able to connect to Vanus. And now we can go ahead and send and receive an event. But before we can do that, we need to create an event bus. An event bus is a place to store our events. We can name it whatever we want, but for this tutorial, we will call it Quick Start. We can now send an event to our event bus. We're using the command vsctl event put quick start because it's the name of our event. Remember that Vanus uses cloud event specification. So first, we're going to need to say the data type. We can do data format. And for this example, our data will be plain. Then we can add our data. In this case, my data will be hello world. After, we will need to add our ID. In this case, the ID will be 1. Now we can add our source. Source is where our event comes from. In this case, it comes from our quick start. So we can name our source quick start. And lastly, we need to name our event type. In this case, it's an example. Once we've done that, we can click enter and we should have result 200 with 0 error. Now that we've received result 200, we know that the event was sent successfully to Vanus. If this didn't work for you, make sure you filled out all the format correctly. Now let us see if we receive the data inside our event bus with vsctl event get quick start, or whatever you've named your event bus. Make sure to set the offset to 0 and the number to 1 since we've sent one message. The offset is the starting point and the number of message you want to read from that starting point is number. vsctl event get quick start offset 0 and number, and here we can see our event called hello world. In the case we would want to send a second message to our event bus, we can send another message. We can use the same command and we can change our message ID to 2 and change our message to we did it. Yay. And send another message to Vanus. And now if we want to check both of our message, we will use offset 0 and number 2. If we would like to only see our second message, we will start our offset to 1 and use read 1 message. And we will get our first message. We did it. Well, thank you guys for watching, and if you have any question, leave a comment or let us know.